Women do not crave usefulness. They crave value. So then, where does your value lie? You ever send a long, thoughtful text and get nothing but a dry K back? Or maybe you hit her with a sweet good morning every single day, and the best she gives you is a thumbs up emoji. 4 hours later. But the one time you went silent for 2 days because life got busy, suddenly she's blowing up your phone. 17 messages, memes, random questions, acting like she just remembered a story from last week. That's not a coincidence, brother. That's a pattern. Here's the brutal part nobody wants to admit. The more available you are, the less interesting you become. Not because women are cruel, not because they're playing some evil game, but because humans don't value what comes too easy. If your attention costs nothing, it means nothing. Think about it. Why do people line up for hours outside a new restaurant, but ignore the one that's always empty? Why does the limited edition sneaker sell out in 5 minutes, while the regular pair sits on shelves for months? Scarcity creates value. Predictability kills it. And right now, if you're always texting, always calling, always showing up the second she snaps her fingers, you're not the prize. You're the background noise. Elevator music. Forgettable. But here's the twist. Attraction doesn't grow when you pour more in. It grows when you step back. Not more effort equals more love, but less effort equals more desire. And once you understand that, the whole game flips. Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you will completely change the way you see women, dating, and yourself. Here's the truth. Nobody told you when you were growing up. The second you become too easy to reach, you stop being exciting. The second she knows you'll always answer, you stop being a mystery. And when the mystery dies, so does attraction. Look back at your own life. When you text her first every morning, when you respond within seconds, when you write novels about your feelings, you think you're showing love. But what you're really showing is this. My time isn't valuable. My attention is free, and I need you more than you need me. That doesn't make her feel lucky. That makes her feel trapped. Humans don't chase what's already in their hands. We chase what feels just out of reach. That's why the guy who replies 3 days later suddenly gets all her attention. She's checking her phone, rereading his short replies, overthinking every word. Meanwhile, your long messages. She skims them while half watching Netflix. Here's the paradox. With work, with school, with the gym, more effort brings more results. But with attraction, the harder you push, the faster she pulls away. Not because she hates effort, but because effort screams desperation, and desperation screams low status. Think about it like this. Do you ever see a CEO spamming emojis? Do you ever see a man building something important worrying about why she used a period instead of an exclamation mark? No, because men who know their worth don't obsess over validation. They don't drop everything to explain themselves. They don't beg for attention that should come naturally. When you're always available, you don't look romantic. You look replaceable. You're the open-door store that nobody brags about. The 24-hour diner that's always empty. Useful maybe, but never exciting. And women don't crave useful. They crave valuable. Here's the shift. The less you orbit around her, the more she starts orbiting around you. Not because you played games, but because you finally stopped auditioning. And the moment you stop proving your value, she has to start proving hers. That's the engine of attraction. Scarcity, uncertainty, anticipation. It's not about being toxic. It's about being a man who knows his time matters. And until you get that, you'll keep texting yourself out of her league. Scarcity is the fuel that keeps attraction burning. The less she can predict you, the more she thinks about you. The less she hears from you, the more every word matters. That's not manipulation. That's human wiring. Think about it. Why do people value diamonds? Not because they're useful, but because they're rare. Why do people pay thousands for VIP tickets? Not because the seat is comfortable, but because not everyone can get in. Scarcity creates value. Abundance kills it. And right now, most men are giving their attention away like free samples at Costco. Always available, always reachable, always predictable. That predictability is poison. When she knows you'll text every morning at 7:01 a.m., it's no longer exciting. When she knows you'll drop everything at midnight just to listen, it's no longer attractive. You've trained her brain to treat you like background noise, like the hum of an air conditioner, only noticed when it stops. Here's the twist. Attraction doesn't grow when you increase contact. It grows when you increase space. Not, the more I give, the more she'll love me. But the more I hold back, the more she invests. And once you flip that switch, she starts chasing. She begins wondering why you haven't texted. She starts checking your socials. She crafts messages with care instead of tossing you lazy one-word replies. Not because you changed your looks, not because you bought a fancy car, but because your silence created tension, and tension is the seed of desire. Look at the men women obsess over. They're not sitting by the phone. They're building businesses, training at the gym, living lives that matter. When they reply, it feels earned. When they're absent, it feels mysterious. That unpredictability is what makes her heart race. You've been playing the wrong game. You thought consistency would win her over. But consistency without scarcity isn't attractive. It's suffocating. She doesn't lose interest because you're boring. She loses interest because there's nothing left to wonder about. Scarcity keeps her hooked. Predictability makes her yawn. And if you want to stop being treated like furniture, you need to stop being always on. Attraction lives in the gaps, in the silence, in the space where her imagination fills in the blanks. Status isn't just about money or looks. It's about how your behavior gets processed in her brain. She doesn't sit there thinking, he texted back in 30 seconds, so he must be low value. But her subconscious does the math for her. Every instant reply, every desperate follow-up, every just checking in screams one thing. This man has nothing better going on. Here's the reality. High-value men behave differently. Not because they're acting, but because their lives demand it. The man running a company doesn't have time to double text. The man training for his next fight doesn't drop everything to decode emojis. The man with options doesn't stress over whether to use a smiley face or not. Their absence feels powerful because it's backed by purpose. Now flip it. When you're always available, you don't look loving. You look replaceable. You look like the guy with no purpose, no mission, no competition. And women are biologically tuned to avoid that. They crave men who are already wanted, already busy, already in motion. Think of it like branding. A luxury brand doesn't beg you to buy. It doesn't spam you with ads every hour. It holds back, controls access, and makes you prove you're worthy of it. Meanwhile, the bargain store is open 24/7, flooding you with discounts, desperate for attention. Which one feels more valuable? Which one gets treated with respect? Here's the twist. It's not your paycheck, your car, or even your body that sets your status. It's the way you carry yourself. Not, I need her to validate me, but I validate myself. Not, I'll drop everything for her, but she has to earn my time. That's what her instincts pick up on. The bitter pill is this. You might already have status in other areas. At work, in your social circle, even at the gym. But the moment you beg for her attention, you flush it down the drain. You take yourself from leader to follower, from prize to background noise. Status isn't just what you have. Status is how you behave when she tests you. And if you want her desire to rise, your behavior has to speak louder than your words. Here's where most guys crash and burn. They confuse consistency with attraction. They think sending good morning texts every single day is romantic. They think remembering every detail she ever mentioned proves they care. They think long messages show emotional intelligence. But here's the problem. Effort doesn't always equal desire. Sometimes, effort screams insecurity. Let me break it down. In school, more effort means better grades. In the gym, more reps mean more strength. At work, more hours mean more results. But with women, the harder you try, the faster you fail. Because she doesn't measure attraction by effort. She measures it by status. And high-status men don't need to try that hard. Think about the guy who crafts the perfect text for 20 minutes. She doesn't think, wow, he's thoughtful. She thinks, he must not have other options. The guy who plans elaborate dates every weekend, she doesn't feel special. She feels smothered. The guy who responds instantly every time, she doesn't feel desired. She feels certain. And certainty kills desire. Not boring, but predictable. Not sweet, but suffocating. Not romantic, but replaceable. That's the trap most men fall into. They drown her in attention until she forgets what it felt like to crave it. Now flip it. Cut your effort by 70%. Stop over-explaining. Stop double texting. Stop showing up like a delivery service on call 24/7. Suddenly, something changes. She leans in. She asks more questions. She starts remembering details about you, not because you're better looking, not because you bought something new, but because the dynamic flipped. Here's the twist. Desire lives in the unknown. Not in the diary-length paragraphs you send. Not in the daily reminders that you're still there. It lives in the gaps. The spaces where she doesn't know what you're doing. The silences where her imagination fills in the blanks. That's where attraction breathes. And here's the question you should be asking yourself right now. If doing more kills her desire, what happens when you finally learn to do less? Attraction isn't magic. It's biology. And biology doesn't care about your good intentions. Her brain isn't running a spreadsheet about how many nice things you did this week. It's running on dopamine. And dopamine loves uncertainty. Think about gambling. Why do slot machines keep people hooked for hours? Not because they pay out every time, but because you never know when the next hit is coming. That unpredictability makes every spin exciting. Her brain works the same way with you. If she doesn't know when you'll text, if she can't predict your mood, every notification feels like a potential jackpot. Now compare that to you right now. You text every morning at the same time. You reply within seconds. You over-explain every gap. That's not exciting. It's predictable. You've turned yourself into a slot machine that pays out every single pull. And do you know what happens when a slot machine pays out every time? People stop playing. There's no thrill, no spike, no addiction. Here's the twist. The silence you're afraid of is actually where desire grows. Not in the constant updates, not in the walls of text, but in the spaces where she has to guess, where she has to imagine, where she starts asking herself, what is he doing right now? Who is he with? Why hasn't he answered yet? Those questions hit her nervous system harder than any sweet paragraph ever could. Scarcity sharpens her focus like a laser. Selectivity makes your words feel like a prize. Uncertainty turns every small message into something heavy with meaning. That's the cocktail that triggers obsession. Not consistency, not effort, not predictability. And here's the kicker. You don't need money, looks, or fame to use this. You don't need a Lamborghini or a six-pack. You need discipline. The discipline to hold back. The discipline to let silence work for you. The discipline to understand that doing less is the ultimate cheat code. So ask yourself this. Are you going to keep being the slot machine that pays out every time? Or are you finally ready to become the jackpot she can't stop chasing? Here's something most men never realize. Attraction isn't just about you and her. It's about how the world sees you and how she thinks the world sees you. This is where pre-selection and social proof come in. When other women want you, her brain doesn't say, "Oh no, competition." It says, if other women find him valuable, he must be valuable. That's biology. That's survival wiring. Women evolved to chase the man other women chase because it signals status, strength, and security. Now here's the problem. When you blow up her phone, when you cancel plans for her, when you orbit her like she's the center of your universe, you're sending the opposite signal. You're showing her she's your only option. And nothing kills desire faster than being somebody's only option. Think of it like this. Imagine two restaurants. One has a line out the door. The other is empty, with the waiter begging you to come inside. Which one feels more valuable? Which one makes you curious? Exactly. The crowd creates status. The demand creates desire. That's why the guy who takes days to reply gets paragraphs back, while you get LOL or cool. It's not that he's better than you. It's that his behavior screams he has other people, other priorities, other options. And that frame, "I am a man with options," is magnetic. Here's the twist. You don't even need a rotation of women to create this effect. You just need to live like a man who has choices. Not, "I'm free whenever you want," but "I'll see if I'm available." Not, "I'll drop everything for you," but "I have things going on, and if you want my time, it has to be worth it." Her subconscious picks this up instantly. Every delayed reply, every boundary enforced, every moment you show that your world doesn't revolve around her, that's pre-selection at work. You become the man she has to compete for, instead of the man begging for a chance. So here's the question. If you stopped acting like she was your only shot, how differently would she treat you? This is where the game flips. The second you stop chasing, she starts. The second you stop auditioning, she begins auditioning for you. That's not theory, it's psychology. Humans value what they have to work for, and right now you've been giving yourself away like clearance stock. Think about the guys she obsesses over. They're not flooding her with essays. They're not liking every post. They're not waiting by the phone. They live as if she's one of many possibilities, not the center of the universe. And that frame changes everything. Suddenly, she's the one overthinking. She's the one staring at her phone. She's the one wondering if you like her enough. Here's the paradox. Effort makes sense everywhere else in life, but in attraction, effort backfires. The moment she senses you're working too hard, she knows she's already won, and the chase dies. But when it looks effortless, when your replies are short, when your life is full, when your attention feels rare, that's when she leans in. Not, "How can I win him?" but "Am I good enough for him?" Not, "Will he like me?" but "Does he already have someone else?" That's the silent loop running in her mind when you act like the prize instead of the pursuer. And this isn't about arrogance. It's about shifting the balance. A man who knows his worth doesn't beg. He doesn't explain himself. He doesn't sacrifice his mission for a text thread. He moves with the quiet confidence that his time is expensive. And when she feels that, her behavior flips. She invests. She initiates. She competes. Here's the twist. You don't need to become someone else. You don't need to play games. You just need to stop treating her attention like oxygen. Because the second she feels you don't need her to breathe, she becomes addicted to proving her value to you. So ask yourself right now, are you still playing the role of contestant in her show? Or are you ready to become the prize she fights for? So here's the lesson, brother. Attraction doesn't die because you weren't nice enough. It doesn't fade because you forgot her favorite color or missed a meme she sent. Attraction dies when you erase all tension, when you remove all mystery, when you make yourself too easy to reach, too easy to read, too easy to have. You thought love was about effort. You thought if you just showed her more, gave her more, proved yourself more, she'd finally see your value. But that's not how it works. Not, the harder I try, the more she'll want me. But the less I try, the more she'll chase. Not, consistency builds attraction, but scarcity fuels desire. That's the twist most men never learn until it's too late. The truth? The space between your messages is where the spark lives. The silence you fear is where her imagination goes wild. The absence you think will push her away is the very thing that pulls her closer. Attraction doesn't grow in constant presence. It grows in your restraint, in your discipline, in your ability to hold back when every insecure part of you wants to over-deliver. This isn't about being toxic. It's not about ghosting. It's not about pretending to be too busy. It's about living like a man who has purpose, standards, and options. A man who values his own time so highly that anyone who gets it feels lucky. That's the frame that flips the entire game. So stop texting yourself out of her league. Stop auditioning for approval you don't need. Start acting like the man who doesn't chase, because he's already the prize. And here's the part most guys miss. This isn't just about dating. It's about every area of your life. The way you hold your boundaries, the way you command respect, the way you carry yourself. Women just happen to be the mirror that reflects back whether you've mastered it or not. So the question is, are you going to keep being the open-door diner that nobody brags about? Or are you ready to become the reservation-only restaurant she'll wait in line for? If you're serious about flipping that switch, here's what you do next. Hit that follow button, because this is just the beginning. Drop a comment if you've ever been the guy who over-texted, and share this with a brother who needs the wake-up call. And stick around, because in the next video, I'm going to show you the exact communication hacks that make her chase you without a single trick or gimmick.